Today's theme is only beautiful things. I am in my red velvet dress in the most beautiful city in the world. And if I chose to do nothing at all today, it will be more than enough. It is happiness itself. Just exist. As I had been hankering to do since these ripe red beauties entered my life, today I'm making cherry clafoutis, keto style of course. I had been to peruse the free general collection at Petit Palais some weeks earlier, but had skipped the exhibit of Giovanni Boldini's works. I remember it now as fitting of today's theme, gallery upon gallery of beautiful Belle Epoque portraits. I had first heard of Giovanni Boldini in a novel, A Paris Apartment by Michel Gabel, which is based on a true story. In 2010, 91-year-old Solange died in the south of France. Her heirs inherited a Paris apartment in the Pigalle neighborhood, which had been left untouched since before World War II started, when Solange fled Paris, never to return. The doors of the apartment were at last opened 70 years later, and what the heirs found was like Sleeping Beauty's castle, everything covered in dust and frozen in time. Among the many treasures was a large painting of a beautiful woman in a pale pink evening gown of the Gilded Age, which turned out to be Solange's grandmother, Martha de Florian. This was a painting of her at the height of her beauty by none other than Giovanni Boldini, a famous portraitist of Belle Epoque Paris. Martha de Florian had been not only Boldini's muse, but also his lover, it was said. When put up for auction, Boldini's portrait of Martha fetched 3 million euros. Officially, Martha's occupation was listed as embroiderer. However, the fact that both of her children's fathers, including Solange's, were not known, it is agreed that she was, in fact, a professional courtesan. I sighed over and over again as I gazed at Boldini's paintings of society beauties in sumptuous gowns. Boldini was born and educated in Italy, but rose to fame as a portraitist of the Parisian rich and famous. He has a very distinctive style, making his subjects look willowy and swan-like in flowing gowns. Since all of the subjects look very similar, with elongated torsos, necks, and limbs, I could only surmise that the Boldini style was the original Instagram filter, as his subjects were perhaps the first influencers. He was being commissioned by the very wealthy after all, so I have a feeling he was probably not the most faithful portraitist, but a very smart and talented one nevertheless, and as a consequence, enormously sought after and successful. Serious art critics were not so kind, accusing Boldini of being formulaic. However, this retrospective highlights that he did have his own brand of originality. After all, one can instantly identify a Boldini at a glance, or at least the Boldini style. On top of that, he did so while being commercially rewarded for it and being popular during his time. Not many artists of his time can make 3 million euros on one piece alone, over 100 years after his death. And as a cherry on top, it was rumored he bedded many of his subjects. So, hooray for Boldini. It turns out the Casanova painter did not marry until the ripe old age of 86. 86! Can you imagine a woman of 86 trying to marry at that age? People would assume she was a billionaire heiress, someone fabulously wealthy to make up for all her wrinkles. Still, Boldini gives me hope. I have multiple decades still to find my one true love. In the meantime, I will wear my red velvet dress, my heels, and my cherry red lipstick, and not have a care in the world. What is the point of life if I can't do all that? Since today's plans were spontaneous, I decided to go to my favorite restaurant in the world, spontaneously. The food is good, yes, but the food is not why it is my favorite restaurant. It is my favorite restaurant because it is the most beautiful in the whole world, and I always feel special in it. Le Train Bleu is in Gare de Lyon, and walking through its fabled doors is like stepping back in time. I imagine that if I've ever wanted time travel to Belle Epoque Paris, the Train Bleu built in 1900 is the closest thing. If Boldini's beauties were to step out of their portraits, this is where they would dine in their finery. Unfortunately, being spontaneous meant that I could not secure a table today. Point of fact is that I have never seen it so busy. It is only as it should be. These glorious interiors are meant to be admired. So I made do with a drink at the bar area, someplace I've never actually been to. Here, though, I could imagine being a heroine waiting for my train to arrive to take me to an exciting destination. Don't feel too sorry for me. I've dined at Le Train Bleu 3 times before, and there is a freshly made cherry clafoutis waiting for me at home. Besides, I'm sipping this enchanting blue curacao cocktail in my red velvet dress, sat in the most beautiful restaurant and in the most beautiful city in the world.